Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next 30 minutes. India condemns the violence at a Hindu temple in Canada's Brampton, dubs it an act of violence perpetrated by extremists and separatists. Just a day left to go for the Harris-Trump battle royale on Tuesday. A new poll claims the former president is leading the vice president in all the 7 swing states, with the widest margin in Arizona. EU's foreign policy chief holds talks with South Korean foreign minister in Seoul, says the deployment of North Korean troops to Ukraine highlights the need for EU and South Korea security cooperation. And American music mogul Quincy Jones, who worked with Michael Jackson, Frank Sinatra and others, dies at 91. Well, first up, let's get you all the latest on the US presidential polls 2024 as the race to the White House nears the finish line. American voters will face a clear choice for president on election day between Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump. In a final push for votes, Trump focused on immigration at his last rally in Georgia on Sunday. Harris, meanwhile, was in Michigan, making a pitch to Christians and Arab Americans. The big question is, will America get its first woman president or a second Donald Trump term?
The US presidential election is all set for an epic showdown. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris ramp up their campaigns in critical swing states. With less than 36 hours until polls open on Tuesday, both candidates are in an all-out push to sway the final undecided voters. In recent rallies, Trump has zeroed in on the economy and job reports, betting that these issues will resonate and lead him to victory over Harris. Rallying in Georgia, the Republican candidate promised a fun time ahead.
It's going to be party time. It's going to be party time. So with your vote on Tuesday, we're going to fire Kamala and we are going to save America. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories back to America and back to the good old state of Georgia.
Meanwhile, Democrat Kamala Harris made her closing pitch in Michigan, where she committed to working towards an end to the conflict in Gaza. She also warned voters not to be swayed by Trump's tactics surrounding election fraud claims.
I would ask, in particular, people who have not yet voted, to not fall for his tactic, which I think includes suggesting to people that if they vote, their vote won't matter. Suggesting to people that somehow the integrity of our voting system is not intact so that they don't vote. And again, I think that it is a tactic. It is meant to distract from the fact that we have and support free and fair elections in our country.
Across the swing states, the competition between Republicans and Democrats remains razor thin. In Iowa, a new poll shows Harris pulling ahead of Trump, but another survey suggests that Republican nominee still holds favor in many other key battlegrounds. Supporters are deeply divided as both campaigns continue their final push.
What he stands for, his platform, stands for religious liberty, for life, for morality, where I see the other side. He's more pro-America, definitely, and he sees the threat that our country's facing, and he wants to stop that and return America back to where our foundation has been laid.
We're just excited to go out and vote. We're excited to be a part of getting the first woman in office in the White House.
As election day nears, security measures around the White House are being bolstered. With concerns of potential unrest, law enforcement across the capital and several states are on a high alert. This year's presidential race is coming down to the wire, with an unprecedented number of swing states too close to call. Over 77.6 million people have already cast their votes early, roughly half the total ballots in 2020, underscoring the intense public interest in this election. Tripti Tripathi reporting for DD India.
Now, the US presidential election operates differently from India's popular vote system. In the US, voters actually choose an electoral college, which ultimately selects the president and vice president. Here's how it works. The US president is elected by 538 electors from across the nation. This number represents the combined total of members in the Senate, the House of Representatives, plus 3 electors from Washington, D.C. It's a winner-takes-all system in most states. Whoever wins the popular vote in each state claims all that state's electoral votes, with the exception of Nebraska and Maine. Each state's electoral votes are based on population, but winning the presidency requires 270 of these 538 votes. Voters in each state select electors from party nominees, with swing states holding particular importance. These are the states where the outcome is uncertain and could sway either way. Notably, each state is guaranteed at least 3 electoral votes, so states with small populations like Wyoming end up overrepresented, while highly populated states like California are somewhat underrepresented. All right, we're moving on from the US elections for the moment. Now, the acts of violence by separatists at the Hindu Sabha temple in Ontario have yet again revealed the severity of extremism in Canada. That's what the Indian government stand is, and India has called upon Canada to ensure that all places of worship are protected from such attacks.
India has strongly condemned the recent violence at the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton, Ontario, which was carried out by extremists and separatists on Sunday. In response, the Indian government is urging Canada to take necessary measures to protect all places of worship and to ensure that those responsible for the violence are prosecuted. The Ministry of External Affairs stated that the intimidation and harassment faced by Indian consular officers will not hinder their outreach efforts. They remain committed to providing services to both Indian and Canadian citizens. The clashes occurred during a consular camp organized in collaboration with Hindu Sabha Mandir, highlighting the need for enhanced security and protection for places of worship. The Indian High Commission in Canada also highlighted similar disruptions during the consular camps held in Vancouver and Surrey on Saturday and Sunday. The incident has sparked widespread outrage both in Canada and abroad. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the attack, reaffirming the importance of religious freedom. While Canadian opposition leader Pierre Poilievre called the attack as unacceptable, Toronto MP Kevin Vogue also condemned the attack and asserted that Canada has become a safe harbor for radicals and asserted that the country's leaders have failed to protect Hindus. Canadian Member of Parliament Chandra Arya also condemned the attack on the temple, saying that a red line has been crossed by extremists. Local police has arrested 3 in connection with the incident and are being criminally charged for their actions. The recent attack adds to a string of similar incidents documented in recent years, underscoring a distressing trend of religious intolerance. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let me now take you back to our top story, which is all about the US elections. Tuesday is the ultimate day of the clash between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We're joined by my colleague Amritpal Singh from Palm Beach in Florida. Hi Amrit, just a day left to go for the battle royale. How's it looking in Donald Trump's home state, which used to be a swing state not too long ago?
That's right, Gautam. It used to be a swing state, but not anymore. It's decidedly red since Governor Ron DeSantis won the election here in 2018 and brought about changes here. It's consistently red. This time around also, Donald Trump has a 7 percentage point lead over Kamala Harris. The hurricane played its part in it, Hurricane Helene, the way Ron DeSantis handled it, and Donald Trump was able to create a perception that Joe Biden's federal administration did not pay enough attention to the state and did not allocate enough resources and funding, whether that's true or not, but he has been able to create the perception in the mind of most of Floridans that they received a stepmotherly treatment from the federal government because it's a decidedly red state. So Donald Trump looks comfortable in Florida. You're right, it used to swing, but not anymore. Remember that famous recount of 2000 where George Bush Jr. won over Al Gore just by a single vote when the Supreme Court finally had to step in and decide that Florida's recount was not possible, and George W. Bush was appointed president. Many call him a selected president rather than elected president, but well, that's 24 years ago. But a lot of demographic changes are taking place here in Florida as a lot of population moves into the Sunbelt states. That could be a hope for Democrats, but right now it is clearly red.
With all the hurricanes hitting it, there could be a reverse flow as well, and I'm surprised that climate change is not featured as much in these elections as an issue as probably it should. Now, just tell us, how has America been gearing up for voting day as well? Security seems to have been taken to unprecedented levels this time around, and by when could we expect the voters' verdict? Will it be on Tuesday night, election night itself? Because some are saying it could turn out to be election week.
That's right. First, about the security election, just a day left for the election. The National Guard is taking no chances. They are out in full force on the streets, especially where the contest is close, to see that there is no violence, because there have been incidents of ballot paper burning, allegations, counter allegations, because tempers understandably are running high. It's a very, very tight race, especially in the swing states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, where the margin between the two candidates is very, very slight. So both candidates are going all out, and both the parties are going all out in all counties to get as many of the voters out, so that their victory would depend upon how much of a voter base they are able to bring out. And when the contest is so close and there are allegations and counter allegations, things could go out of hand. So there are the security aspect. Given the security aspect, the National Guard is out, along with, of course, the state forces, because it's not the federal government which conducts the elections here. It's really the county boards that form an electoral board which conducts the elections. As far as how long could it take, generally what happens is that the voting here finishes at 7 p.m. and the count starts right away. And even while some states, because there's a time difference of about 3 hours between the two coasts, even while some states are voting, the others start counting, and television networks start calling in the election. It's easy to call in the election where the states are decidedly blue or red, depending upon the trends, but it's really the swing states where the focus is, and given the narrow margins in the polls and the surveys, that could take longer. And if the margin is really, really close, candidates could ask for recounts, so that could drag on. And how long it could drag on is anybody's guess. It could be weeks as well. But if it's a clear verdict, which at this point everybody's presuming it wouldn't be, but if it's a clear verdict, you could have the president's name by the next morning. But if it is really close and recounts are ordered, it goes into litigation, because in the pre-voting as well, it's gone into litigation in some counties. So if all that happens, then it will be a while before we know who the next president of the United States would be. Gautam.
Yes, I think the days of landslide victories in American presidential elections are well in the past now. Amrit, we'll have to see how things play out on election day and election night. For that matter, thanks a lot for joining us for the moment. Now, still to come on this edition of DD India Live. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer doubles the funding for border control over the next 2 years to £150 million. And is the coalition government of Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Germany in trouble?
राजा आओ आओ आया। ये देखो मैसेज, कहते हैं वीडियो लाइक करके 500 रुपया रोज कमाओ। बस पहले थोड़ा पैसा देके ललचाएंगे, फिर बोलेंगे कि और कमाना है तो पैसा भरो। हम दिन भर चूना लगाते हैं और ये लोग हम ही को चूना लगाने चले हैं। पान वाला हूँ, मूर्ख नहीं हूँ। याद रहे, यूपीआई कहता है कि अगर कोई आसान कमाई का लालच दे तो कहो मैं मूर्ख नहीं हूं।
Well, you're watching DD India Live and I'm Gautam Roy. Now, as part of the Digital India initiative of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Department of Pensions has started a month-long campaign to address pensioners' grievances. At the camp organized by the State Bank of India in Delhi, the Digital Proof of Life certificate was launched. Now, the pensioners need not visit the bank for this verification and they can do so via facial recognition from their mobile phones and computers.
भारतीय स्टेट बैंक की तरफ से पेंशनर्स के लिए डिजिटल लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट जो जीवन प्रमाण पत्र की स्कीम आज से एक कैंपेन मोड में शुभारंभ किया जा रहा है। भारत की 800 सिटी आइडेंटिफाई किया है मिनिस्ट्री ने, उसमें से 60 सिटीज़ में भारतीय स्टेट बैंक की कैंप रहेंगे और हम चाहते हैं कि जो पेंशनर्स हैं वो लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट के लिए बैंक ना आके डिजिटल मोड में सबमिट करें। ये सिक्योर्ड है, हैसल फ्री है और बहुत आसानी से किया जा सकता है।
1 नवंबर से 30 नवंबर तक चलाई जा रही है। पूरे भारतवर्ष में करीब 800 शहरों में और करीब 1900 कैंप्स लगा रहे हैं, जिसमें स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया इसमें सबसे अग्रिम भूमिका में है। और सारे पेंशनर्स, पेंशन भोगियों से मेरा निवेदन है कि आप अपना डिजिटल लाइफ सर्टिफिकेट, जीवन प्रमाण पत्र जो है वो आप डिजिटल मोड में दीजिए। ये बहुत सिक्योर है और ये बहुत आसान है।
Now, tensions are mounting within Germany's coalition government as a leaked document from Finance Minister Christian Lindner calls for urgent economic reforms. The document from the Free Market Free Democrats leader pushes for swift measures to revive Germany's struggling economy, a move that clashes with the policies of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democrats and the Greens. With parliamentary elections approaching in September 2025, the coalition's internal disputes are spilling into public view as each party moves into campaign mode. Now, the question is, how long can Germany's ruling coalition continue? Well, joining us with more is DW's Siponda Chimbelu in Berlin. Now, Siponda, what can you tell us about the latest that is unfolding right now?
Thanks for having me. Well, on Sunday, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met with Christian Lindner, and that is the leader of the Free Democrats, one of the two other parties in the ruling coalition. Now, Lindner penned an 18-page document which was leaked to the press on Friday. And in it, he calls for the country to abandon climate goals that are more ambitious than the European Union's targets, and also to get rid of some social reforms. Now, that puts the finance minister at odds with the two other parties in the ruling coalition, the Social Democrats and the Greens. And that has left German media speculating about how long the ruling coalition will last. The German federal elections are scheduled for September 25th next year, but there are doubts the coalition can work together until then. And the next couple of months will be pivotal for the ruling parties. They will be trying to show the voters that they are better than their coalition partners. And that will, of course, make a very difficult relationship even more complicated.
And in that case, Chipona, how are Germans responding?
Well, Germany's ruling coalition is unpopular with voters. That's why the three parties have been punished at just about every election. A leading poll by Infotest DMAP shows that 54% of voters will be in favor of early elections, so before 25th of September. And Germans are very concerned about the economy. Around 4 in 10 worry about their ability to maintain their standard of living. And nearly 20% fear that they may lose their jobs because of the country's stagnating economy. The government's response to the economic crisis has failed to impress voters. And businesses, too, are unimpressed. Instead of working together, the parties appear to be pushing their own interests. Now, last week, the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Free Democrats all held 3 different events with business representatives, with each party pitching itself as the group with the answers. And businesses are critical. They say action is needed, but the government has failed to deliver.
Now, and how is the ruling coalition's crisis affecting Germany's economy itself?
Well, many economists say that Germany's economy urgently needs reform. So the lack of action by the government isn't helping tackle the country's economic challenges. And this could be why slightly more than half of Germans would welcome early elections. And this week could be decisive. Now, over the weekend, German media also reported that the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, will meet with the leaders of the Greens and the Free Democrats. So everyone is, of course, now wondering what the Chancellor's next move is going to be and what that will mean for the future of the ruling coalition.
Chipona Chimbelu, thanks for joining us from Berlin. Now, the 8th edition of Ganga Utsav 2024 was celebrated at Chandi Ghat in Haridwar, Uttarakhand on Monday. The National Mission for Clean Ganga holds this annual festival to commemorate the declaration of the Ganga as India's national river. The primary focus of Ganga Utsav is to foster a connection with the sacred river, promote conservation and emphasize the river's cultural and spiritual significance. We leave you with these images of Ganga Aarti. Have a great evening ahead. Well, that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app right now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.